Hey, this is the Prophet with Nick Black. It's time to chit chat. You know nothing about blockchain. We here to fix that. You want the news on the new stocks? This where you get that. So go and grab you a nice chair. It's time to sit back and talk to Prophet. Hey, hey, you talking to the Prophet? Hey, hey. We talking condos and nice clothes and driving Lambos. I remember them night codes, we couldn't stand those. We tried to drive on them high roads, but had to stay low. Now there's solutions to hard bills we couldn't pay for. I talked to Prophet to get some profit, we couldn't change the top. If it's a stock and I need a cop it, I wait for him to drop it. Ain't no option, let's get it poppin'. We chillin' in the trap. I need some crypto, put it in my pocket by any means I rock. This is the Prophet with Nick Black. It's time to chit chat. You know nothing about blockchain, we here to fix that. You want the news on them new stocks? This where you get that. So go and grab you a nice chair. It's time to sit back and talk to Prophet. Hey, hey, you talking to the Prophet? Hey, hey, you talking to the Prophet?
Well, so let me introduce everybody here. Unless you are like the ostrich with the head in the sand, you know Emil Kalinowski. Emil, welcome again.
Thank you very much, Nick. Great to be back. Nick, I want to tweet out the public link on Twitter, but I always forget your Twitter handle. Can you tell me what it is? And I'll tweet it out live right now.
It is Nicholas Black 60.
I knew it. See, because I always add 69, and that's why it doesn't work.
That would make sense for so many reasons. Just none that appeal to my sexual prowess, unfortunately.
There it is. Boom.
So Emil and I, we go back and forth a lot. We're going to talk about some cool stuff today. We're going to talk about NFTs. We're going to talk about the macro landscape. I do have a couple of just quick announcements. So we'll look at prices and things like that. But one thing that we never get to do, and we're going to do today, is I'm going to leave a pretty good chunk of time so that you guys can ask Emil questions live and he can field them, because Emil ain't no puppet. So I don't know what Emil's thinking from one second to the next. I'm not sure if Emil knows what Emil is thinking from one second to the next. So we're going to leave some Q&A time. I think that'll be cool. Emil, opening thoughts. What is there anything on your radar just in life in general that you're kind of watching?
When I first moved to Hollywood trying to be the next Ryan Seacrest, I dated a ventriloquist, and then I could be called a puppet, but no longer. So that's my thought. A lot of people don't know that. True facts about Emil. The things that I wanted to share, I suppose, is that right now we're in a reflation. The markets are roaring, but as Jeff and I talk about on our show, Eurodollar University, we think it will last months to weeks to months, that sort of thing. Couple of quarters at the longest. The underlying economic activity isn't too healthy, so we don't think it'll last well into 2022, but it should last through the rest of this year.
And that and the problem, Emil, with that is, and we'll get into this later, obviously, is that it just adds fuel to the inflationista fire, right? People go, well, look, eggs cost more. Equals inflation. And you're like, no, but it's very difficult to get people to separate this kind of recency bias of right now with, step back and look and go back to 2007. And we're not materially different than we were then, if you back out these transitory effects.
Well, that's something that Jeff is apoplectic about, to make sure that people understand that there's who to blame. That's the thing he's after, is if you understand that inflation can only be caused by a tidal wave of money being produced by banks, private banks, or in some cases in emerging markets, the central bank, whichever entity produces the most amount of money in your economic system, if they're going to town, then yeah, you can have inflation take off. But because we had the government send out the stimulus checks, because the central banks are announcing QE every single day, although lately now they're saying they're going to be tapering, and prices are increasing. Crypto is going up. The stock market is roaring. And the economy stinks, and our wages are not going up. and it's hard to have a job. And when you do have a job, you don't know if you're really going to keep it. You're certainly not making a lot of money. And so people say, aha, this is inflation. But to Jeff's point is, it's not monetary inflation. It's price increases being caused by other events, most likely the turning on and turning off of the economy.
Yeah, I think, and that's a subject we're going to continue to we're going to beat that drum, because I'm in the same camp. And anyway, it's a constant discussion, and I think people try to simplify. We all do this to an extent. Complex subjects, we try to simplify them into these little blurbs that we can remember very easy. Prices up. Yeah.
Mr. Jack, not you, the author, but Mr. Jack himself on the Twitter the other day saying hyperinflation. So to your point, very focused, what's the word? Getting it down to the essence, consumable hyperinflation, and now there's all this talk. So, you know, you can see where he's promoting Bitcoin. He's saying there's inflation. Bitcoin's going up. It makes sense. You see your prices going up. You know you're not getting paid more. It makes sense to think that there's a rip-roaring inflation. But as we talk about on our show, you know, what we've noticed over the last several months is the month-to-month increases in consumer prices and core consumer prices are now normal. They were what they were before the pandemic arrived. I don't like referring to it as the pandemic. I always like adding pandemica, the COVIDica. I try to make fun of it and light of it. But the point is, the prices are increasing month over month at the same rate that we had seen 2018, 2019, and before. And nobody then, Jack wasn't texting me. Was it just, I think I got the message. Was it to other people that there was hyperinflation and that sort of thing?
Well, and I think that's just a general misunderstanding of, well, we shouldn't blame Jack. The head of the Federal Reserve doesn't understand inflation or money. So we really shouldn't hold his, Jack's feet over the fire. If you go to Twitter to get your financial advice, you've already failed, I'd say.
I go to TikTok to get all my financial advice, not Twitter.
That's where all the brains go now. Okay.
I'm leveraged.
Let me say hello to Belinda Cooks, Barella, Gordon Bennett, Sniper Princess, Crypto Gamer 420, Solid Gold. I like Solid Gold.
I like Sniper Princess.
Sniper Princess. You don't make her mad. Well, actually, I shouldn't have said the pronoun. You don't make him, her, them, they, it, their, sis, theirs, theirs, ziz. Pronoun. It's difficult. It really is difficult. Let me say hello to Brady. Let me say hello to Joe, Timothy, Joe, Johnny. And we're scrolling. Biotech Breakout. Hello to you. Scott, Jared, Jasnot, Michael Murphy across the pond. Belinda Cook on both sides. Sue, Drossify News. Neil, I get that a lot. He obviously gets that a lot. Land Deals. Nara. And breakfast leadership. This is the best kind of leadership. You start it early. Breakfast leadership. Patrick, what up? Dubai Money. I'm trying to get to everyone. And Demayan, Michael. And I think we got it. Okay, let's go to our non-commercial break. At some point, someone's going to come in and throw us $10,000 an episode to slap a logo on there, but probably not yet. But I know that they're lining up. They're lining up at the gates. Funny enough, actually, Emil, have you been approached by any scammy crypto companies offer to get you to pitch their stuff? Sadly, no.
I'm available, and people can reach out to me at Emil Kalinowski on Twitter.
So I actually have been approached by about a few, and they're like, listen, all you have to do is just say that you like this thing, and we'll give you some tokens and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, that feels so much like going to jail material. It just feels like something nasty. Anyway, but we won't be doing that.
Can't we say that Jack did the same thing? I mean, he was more subtle, but in his bio, it has just one thing, Bitcoin. And then he writes hyperinflation. So,
Emil, interestingly, do you know the definition of hyperinflation?
I want to be corrected if it's not this, but I heard that it is 50% inflation every day.
Well, yes, that would be hyperinflation, but I think the actual textbook of it is 15 month on month. So 15% month after month after month after month. That is what they would refer to as hyperinflation, because that would get you to some, astronomical Zimbabwean, Weimar, Venezuelan numbers pretty quickly.
That seems very low, 15% every month.
Well,
I thought it was something to do with 50.
Month on month on month on month.
It's something absurd. We know that. And as I saw on Twitter, there's only been just a handful of examples in world history of hyperinflation. That doesn't mean we're big deal, right? We don't want to go through a 1970s inflation. Absolutely not. The Great Inflation. So I'm not downplaying it. I'm not saying it's not pleasant out there. I know it's unpleasant. I know prices are increasing. I just want to make sure we point the fingers at the right people regarding, what has led us to this moment.
And I'll leave this thought before we go into our commercial break. Banks aren't lending. And if banks aren't lending, you're not going to see the kind of reaction in the greater markets that is actual inflation. And on that note,
stunning. Yeah, they're not lending to the private economy.
Right. Not lending into existence. And if they don't lend, and Jeff says this a lot, right? If brokers don't do what they're supposed to do by creating this free flowing cash and credit, economies grind to a halt. So real quick, before we do price, Vincent actually jumped on. Vincent, good morning, by the way, and good morning to Emmanuel, Crypto Gamer. Good morning to everyone. So Vincent said in Investopedia, and you know what? I like Investopedia because they have some cool stuff in there. Hyperinflation refers to rapid and unrestrained price increases in an economy, typically at rates exceeding 50% each month. So even the definition of hyperinflation has hyperinflated.
That's the definition that I know. Of course, it was invented by some academic, which is perfectly fine. So there's no, it's someone's opinion that's been accepted widely. A little bit like with recessions, where we assume it's 2 consecutive quarters, but there have been examples of recessions that have not been 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. So it's hard to define. And then try to define depression if we can't even define recession. So.
Well, we can't even define money, can we? I mean,
there's the rub of it. That's right. Fascinating.
So let's talk about magic money, magic internet money today. M-I-M. Anyway, okay. So with the magic internet money world that a lot of us consume our time in, which I look at the greater crypto space as another, it's Eurodollar 2.0. Now I know you guys number the Eurodollar kind of quagmires. I think you're up to Eurodollar 5, right?
We are, yes. The next one will be number 5.
Okay. Right. So I look at in the same reason that the Eurodollar system was spawned into creation by, and I'm bludgeoning it, but basically banks and lending institutions outside U.S. regulatory structure lending into existence dollar-denominated loans. And that started in the 50s. So well before the Nixon shock, which, by the way, Emil, really quickly, if people want to, well, everybody here, it's mandatory education. You should be listening to Making Sense. How do they find Making Sense?
They can go to Apple or any podcast player they like, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon, whatnot, and type in Making Sense or Emil Kalinowski or Jeff Snyder or Eurodollar University. Also, they can go to YouTube and type in the same code words, and then they'll be able to find it.
So anybody that's trying to grasp this,
I got to get better at this. There's one place you can go to, EuroDollarEnterprises.com. EuroDollarEnterprises.com. And there you'll be able to go to the university show that I do with Jeff, where we review some of his writings and we talk about monetary affairs, as well as here the readings that I do. I've recently started reading interesting pieces by interesting people on matters regarding money. And and you can also see David's artwork, which we'll be discussing later.
Which I'm pretty excited about. That's a whole other thing, which we will get into. Too sweet. So let's talk about magic internet money really quick. The Bitcoin. Emil, do you own any Bitcoin yet?
Is there something called Bitcoin? Because I don't. But if you're referring to Bitcoin, yes, I do. Definitely. You can't afford this sort of hair from just some regular salon. This costs crypto money to get this done.
You got to be crypto rich to have crypto hair.
Yes. Yes, I definitely own it. And the reason I invested in it a long time ago was because I wanted to put some money outside of the financial system. That was the key, you know, and then also it seemed like a very interesting idea, fantastic. But I have all my wealth, you know, in the financial system. I thought this doesn't make any sense. I should put some in the same way that I would put it into art or gold or real estate. You know, get it outside of the financial system. And so that's what I did.
So kind of an asset class diversification strategy.
Not only asset class, but also diversifying across currency and then custodian, right? Let's say you're fully diversified across asset classes, but everything's held by JP Morgan. Well, are you really diversified? Let's say you're diversified across custodians, but all your custodians are domiciled in the United States, and that's the legal jurisdiction you're in. Are you really diversified? So Bitcoin really, and other cryptocurrencies really helps diversify in multiple dimensions.
So let's talk real quick. Bitcoin. You've seen this run. Did it surprise you kind of in the way you look at just world economics that Bitcoin has taken the run? And let's step back a little bit, just this run from about, you know, a year ago until now, where we're at, you know, in the mid 8,000 to 9,000s. And then all of a sudden, pew, we're up at, you know, 62, 65, touched 67,000 for just a smidge. Does this surprise you, or is this endemic of more individuals like you, like me, that say, I don't feel comfortable leaving my currency units? I don't like the platform risk of a JP Morgan or a HSBC or whoever's holding, at the end of the day, my bag of stuff that represents my funny money. And I also just don't feel comfortable. It feels icky to have my currency units in this system, which is kind of bloated and unknown.
Yes, yes, you can sense that there's something wrong with the monetary order, not just this year, but for a long time. So it makes sense. Plus the institutional adoption, right? So we had individuals first, and now growing institutional adoption. So yes, you can absolutely not be surprised by the price increases. I suppose it's surprising how much they've increased. Let me advertise completely uncompensated for Hedgeye, which does a fantastic job with their crypto tracker, which is they apply their methodology of volatility and price movements and volume to the cryptocurrency market, to futures. And they've done an excellent job alerting you to the inflections of Bitcoin. So I am not, and they also track Ethereum. So I am not surprised, because I've been following their work, and they said, hey, it's coming around. It's time to buy. And they don't do that just for cryptocurrencies. They actually do that for all manner of assets. And I've been following them for like 6 years now. And they have been remarkably accurate in identifying the inflection points. So yes, perhaps scale, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised that we're up right now. It makes sense.
There's an interesting comment. Harold commented, you should launch David Parkin's art as NFTs.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Can I? Well, when you tell me when, because I read an interesting article by The Economist about them diving into the NFT space with a magazine cover they did. A magazine cover they did about decentralized finance in September. Yesterday, they put it up as an NFT, and it's going to be up for auction for 24 hours. Segue, David Parkins illustrates for The Economist. And for the more interesting show with Jeff Snyder and Emil Kalinowski, you know. So yes, I think it would be a good idea to do David Parkins illustrations as NFTs. They're the best political lampoons anywhere on earth right now. I don't know if you've seen the last one, Nick. It's so good.
I mean, I guess cat out of the bag, we are going to talk about not only NFTs, but we do have something in the burner that we are planning to do, and it will revolve around that. So cool.
Surely there was a crypto kitty NFT in a bag at one point, right? Get the cat out of the bag.
How many crypto kitties?
They kicked off the NFT. Well, they didn't kick it off. No. But they were the first kind of breakthrough into the mainstream, you know, where it crossed some line of critical mass where people became conscious of like the silliness. What? Cats? It's absurd. And that was like 3 years after the NFTs came into being. And here we are 4 more years and it's growing gangbusters. And real institutions like The Economist and real art is being involved. Fascinating.
And I think it also, and we'll get into this in a second, but the NFT space touched a certain demographic, which is a big demographic. And that's that you do have a merger of people that humans like to collect things. Like throughout history, we like to collect. We especially like to collect artwork. And it's different than collecting like gold coins. However, it's similar to collecting gold coins with numismatic value. You know, a 1786 XYZ coin with a double D stamp or something that makes it irregular and unique. We love uniqueness. We love to be the owners of uniqueness. And in that collector mentality, and that probably has roots back in like really early culture where it made sense for a variety of reasons to collect things and yada, yada. But for whatever kind of amalgam of reasons, humans are very big collectors. And so we'll dive into that. But that's a very interesting human trait.
And previously, this was only available to the uber wealthy. Only they could buy the old masters or a Stradivarius or who knows what kind of Bordeaux, whatever, right? More recently, that's been sort of democratized with indexes of these collectibles. But it's still, I believe, it's still hard to get into them. I believe you have to be an accredited investor in the United States for a good number of these sort of investments, as far as I know. But now, with these NFTs, now it's even more democratized where we can all participate and put away some of our wealth in really uncorrelated assets like the uber wealthy have done for centuries.
So you might say that Joe Sixpack has now joined the ranks of the uber wealthy, maybe.
It's just like decentralized finance. We're starting to participate. And that's why maybe we're seeing such a surge in the cryptocurrencies. Whereas before, only the connected could invest in the South Sea company or the Mississippi company, right? Now, everyone can invest in NFTs or cryptocurrencies worldwide, not just people in Paris or in England or the United States during the tech bubble. It's global money. And that's what we talk about with Jeff all the time, is that it's a solution that people are seeking. They know something's wrong with the monetary order and they're investigating cryptocurrencies, NFTs, something. They know what exists is not working and likely, there's going to be big changes. And so why not get involved a little bit?
All right, going down our list, what's going on? Everything's pretty flat in the markets. I do see a couple of outliers. One, Matic is up 10 on the day. Good for Matic. And for those of you that aren't really sure, like Polygon, should I, shouldn't I? If you believe in Ethereum, or at least you can't disbelieve in Ethereum, even if you don't like the way it works and the fee structure sucks and there's all these reasons not to have it. If you want to participate, you need Ethereum. If you are an investor in the space, you should have some Ethereum. Does the world look a lot different 3 years from now? Well, obviously it will. What does that mean for Ethereum as these other protocol layers start to meaningfully compete? Well, it's not a winner takes all scenario, I don't think. I think that you're going to have a lot of these chains and platforms, maybe all of them, all interoperable, and you'll just leverage the best parts of each in a transaction. So the customer and the end user won't really care how a transaction gets done as long as their life is easier. So between you clicking on your phone and the service you're trying to elicit, all of these machinations might happen underneath the surface. You might go across, 6 different protocols. It might go across Cardano and DOT and flip and get wrapped by something else. But the idea that one will win is pretty silly. This is a space, and in technology, there's not one technology winner for all of technology. That even sounds silly just saying it. And so I think we should look at the crypto space as also where multiple platforms will be leveraged for the best outcome or the best experience. That being said, Matic probably should be in your layer 1.5 bucket, right? That thing which helps the protocol layers, exact transactions more smoothly. Great. Cosmos having a great day. As you guys know, Fetch recently transitioned. Fetch runs on Cosmos. That's why you use Cosmos Station to stake Fetch. And by the way, it's paying 21% return on asset. So if you believe in Fetch, if you believe in autonomous economic agents and these agent systems, autonomous agent systems, then I think Fetch is something you should look at. All right. Some other standouts, Graph tokens having another good day. Fetch, as we speak, up 11.6. Matrix AI, our scammy friend, Matrix AI token, is up a lot. It's a tiny market cap coin. It's basically some dumpster juice. However, it's a lottery ticket. And when people go and look at the AI space and they see all of these relatively expensive assets, and then they see Matrix, which looks cheap, there might be a little bit of that. Supposedly, Matrix has some kind of weird peripheral deal with Amazon. I tried to look into it. It looked really tenuous and sketchy. But I own some Matrix AI. It's been a good lottery ticket, so it's still cheap. And I don't believe in buying things that are cheap, but I do believe that people go price fishing, and it goes back to that question: do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? I'll take rich. And so that's kind of the only real standout. Cody is having a decent day. The news that I wanted to bring you guys, I don't want to focus on price because we have Emil. We can focus on price any other day. I did want to bring you a little bit of real quick information. Singularity DAO and NewNet are in a partnership. So Singularity DAO was the first company, the first vertical that launched underneath Singularity Net, which is David Hansen of Hansen Robotics, among other people, and Dr. Ben Gortzel. They created Singularity Net. It's not only an AI marketplace, but a meeting place for both AI resources, agents, AI agents, and a system of agents, as well as this kind of deep kind of amalgam between robotics and the approach towards artificial general intelligence. Anyway, they launched Singularity DAO, which is decentralized autonomous organization. Their main product, they have 2 big products. Their first big product is called Launchpad, which they will be the facility that launches all of the new products that come under Singularity Net, NewNet being the first one of those. Okay, why is that important? Well, they have another product called Dynasets, which I think is going to probably take Singularity DAO and push it way far. So, and again, I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. And I'm selling kidneys and livers and things like that so I can buy this stuff. So Singularity DAO is going to be the facility with their new Launchpad product that launches NewNet. If you're a U.S. client, you can't participate because of U.S. regulations. However, most people here know someone somewhere else. I'll let you carry that on. Okay. And so basically, this is the Singularity DAO platform that anybody that hasn't looked, you can take Singularity DAO tokens, which you can buy on KuCoin, you can buy them on Gate.io, or you can swap into them. Right now, it is an Ethereum-based token. Yes, you have crappy Ethereum fees, but it is what it is. But you can stake these suckers, and when you stake them, the staking rewards are beyond stupid. In the unbonded pool, where you can just take your tokens, connect your MetaMask wallet, and stake, is paying 35%. And think about that. Think about what that means. And then in the bonded pool, this is where it gets real stupid. It's 40% in the 3-month pool. It's 50.7% in the 6-month. Anyway, those are ridiculous numbers. I only say this because if you like these tokens, it would behoove you to stake them and derive some, some yield in those tokens. This doesn't mean that these tokens will do anything. They could all be dead tomorrow, but I don't think so. And so if you like the tokens, and this is with all of your assets, take an idle asset and make it perform for you. Don't just have some house in the Hamptons. If you're not there, rent it out. Well, this is the way you rent out your tokens, right? You either stake them with a protocol, or you could put them on a lending platform. I'm less desirable of putting my tokens on a lending platform. I'm more desirable. More desirable? No. I like much better taking my assets and staking them directly with the protocol. It supports the network, and it pays you a clear staking reward, staking dividend in real time. So that's super cool. And so the token sale is coming. And this is just the basic numbers on the new net token sale, and then we'll get to the guts. But basically, the new net, the symbol will be NTX. There is it says 1,000 million for those of you that are math whizzes. Yeah, that's a billion. And that's actually lately a pretty small token mint, and that's it. And what NewNet does, and I'm not going to get into all the other guts of it. It's not really that important for those of you that are interested. Obviously, go take a look at it. newnet.io/token_economics. But what I will say is that what NewNet intends to do is take all of your dormant compute assets and utilize their computing power and then pay you for that. So they'll take your old phone, your old computer that's not doing anything. You'll plug it in. You'll donate your computing resources. It will then farm those resources out into society where they're most efficient, and they will pay you in their tokens. And there's a very small amount of tokens. A billion ain't much when you have, dumpster fire companies that produce like a quadrillion tokens. So I would just keep that in mind. Okay, cool. Let's talk. We've talked a little bit greater macro. Let's switch gears for a second, and we're gonna do some open Q&A with Emil, but let's switch gears for a second and let's talk NFTs. So Emil, what is your first kind of look at the non-fungible token space? What are your thoughts?
Here, let me share some statistics with you. Maybe that'll be helpful. So according to The Economist, the NFTs issued on Ethereum right now are worth 14.3 billion according to DApp Radar. That's up from 340 million last year. The people at Jefferies, the investment banks, they think that'll be 80 billion by 2025. Very interesting. Here's the one that just absolutely blew my mind. What percentage of American adults do you believe have purchased an NFT, Nick? Ooh. What percentage of American adults have purchased an NFT? According to Harris, it is X percent. What do you think it is?
So I would say probably 1 in 10 Americans have exposure to crypto. And I would say out of that, maybe a third. But then again, you have the FOMO crowd that comes in and buys all sorts of stupid stuff. So I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to say of Americans, it can't be more than 1 in 10. I'm going to say 7%.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. I can't believe that you got it. I would have said 1% or less. According to Harris, market research firm, 11% of American adults say they have purchased an NFT, only 1% point less than those investing in commodities. Mind blown. Mind blown.
For so many reasons it makes sense, right? Because, someone that might go Bitcoin, oh, I missed it. And again, there's all sorts of cognitively biased arguments for why that doesn't make sense. You don't care about the price, you care about the percentage, blah, blah, blah. But if you reduce it, but if you go look at these pieces of artwork, I think they're cool. Oh, and by the way, they might also be worth a lot. So you essentially have a lottery ticket that looks cool, and you have the collector part. So it's part degenerate gambling behavior. It's part hopium. It's part this collector mentality for artwork and things like it. It checks a lot of boxes.
Incredible. I wonder if a lot of that has to do with the NBA recently. Are those considered NFTs? Those,
yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and so NBA Top Shots, and we'll just take a quick look at those just to give you guys an idea. Oh, really? Has my thing expired? So what NBA Top Shots are, and they're doing a lot of these drops. Probably exposing everything in my life right now.
Where you pull it down and I'll dance or something while you type it in.
Let me, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put Emil back on while I log into this thing because that would be dangerous.
So if people go to eurodollarenterprises.com // I'm not sure which one, try them both, artwork, you'll see all of David Parkin's illustrations, and those I'm thinking should be NFTs. People should be able to participate with them. I think they should be winning awards. These illustrations. I think they're fantastic, but I don't know if people are gonna really enjoy them because what? Because they're not crypto kitties. They're not pixel art. So I wonder how that's gonna be viewed by the audience.
So these are the top shots, and so obviously the NFT space didn't start, but this is definitely a huge onboarding mechanism. A lot of people that are in the collecting card space, baseball cards, football cards, things like this, they were very interested in NBA Top Shots. I was a little bit late. I mean, a little bit, not even a lot. I was only a few months late to NBA Top Shots, but I just didn't see it, right? I was like, these are cool, I guess, right? Like I have this is a LeBron James moment, and it's cool. Like, you get to see, like a cool move, like a dunk or just like some kind of fancy this or that. And that's kind of cool. It's neat to see it from different angles. And I guess you kind of own this little piece of history in a sense. They have a licensing agreement and all this. And that's kind of cool. I listed mine for $23K. If anybody wants it, it's $23K. But the greater story here is that this is starting to onboard a lot of people that wouldn't even be looking at the digital asset space. Incidentally, this runs on the Flow blockchain, but that's what these moments are. And you buy them in packs, or you can buy them at the marketplace, and you can buy them individually if you want to. And then there's a lot of gamesmanship there, buying the tokens, flipping them, doing all this kind of cool stuff. You can see these different prices. And typically the lower the print number, the lower the series, the lower everything as low as you can get, or special numbers. So for instance, if you have a LeBron James, which obviously very valuable, and it's number 23 because that's his number, that's important, or any anniversary dates. There's all sorts of things that people value. They also value low numbers, 10 or below, number 1, obviously, and also the very last number, right? So there's 12,000. Number 12,000 is more valuable than number 11,999, whatever. Anyway, so these are the NBA Top Shots. Now, these would not be considered generative. They take a moment, they create it, and then there is a certain mint of, like in this case, if we look at this Glenn Robinson, it would be there's 12,000 of these. This is base series 2. Okay, cool. And then there's currently 491 of these for sale. And you can see there's 482 collectors, meaning a couple people are selling more than one. But of the 12,000, there's only 491 for sale. So that's a pretty small amount. And you start thinking, okay, there's a fair amount of collecting going on where people are buying these and they're just not selling them. And that's very interesting too. So that gets into that kind of collector behavior. Then you have the more art styled stuff like you would see on Nifty Gateway. If we can get this bad boy to load up, I got like 400,000 windows open. And this is more like an artist would come out, they would go to Nifty Gateway. They'd say, I want to do a drop. I want to put my artwork out there. So at 3 p.m. Pacific time or whatever, this guy, so like today, what's going on? So, you can click on the different artists and look at what their drops are. This is what's happening today. This guy is releasing his pieces, and that's cool. This other person is releasing their pieces, and that's cool if you're into it, whatever. And that go ahead.
How do you know which site is the most reputable or a good one? Like, for example, Nifty Gateway versus Foundation. Is it?
So they all kind of have different propositions. Part of it is sometimes they get really unique artists that will kind of go exclusive with them. Mm-hmm. So far, Nifty Gateway is for the average to above average disposable income investor. Nifty Gateway is where you go. They probably transact more currency units than any other platform. And they have some cool drops, right? At Nifty Gateway, there is some really cool artwork. And, you know, I've got like 31 pieces on there. So I'm not like a whale by any stretch, but I have certain artists that I collect, right? Like I have my four. Yeah.
What's the Mickey Mouse, Homer, and Popeye? Who's doing that? That's fantastic.
So, yeah, these are great. These are Paul Jackson. He and Fuocious are like my favorite artists. And so they are really cool. And what this guy does is he kind of spins these pieces of art and makes them living. So they're kind of these decaying, you know, icons for all of us. And then on the inside, you actually have like, you know, Walt Disney in there writing, and of course he's writing some choice words, but it's just kind of interesting, and it's a little bit of social commentary and a little bit of collecting and a little bit of everything. So I collect a bunch of his stuff. I mean,
it's fantastic.
Lots.
I love it.
And I also have some Justin Roiland, which is, you know, anybody that's into Rick and Morty obviously knows who that is. Jonathan Thunder is really good. He's a very Indian influence in his artwork, and it's really kind of cool, rather creepy stuff. And then I have the signature Beeple, which is kind of like telling everyone, "Hey, I'm a collector, woo woo." But I like Beeple stuff, and to me, owning a Beeple is like saying I'm here to stay, right? It's like owning real estate in LA. You're not a tourist. It's owning real estate, this kind of into perpetuity in the space of this kind of artwork. But this is not the generative artwork, and that seems to be the big play right now. And so one of the projects that I was recently on. Now, by the way, you don't have to use these platforms, Emil. We can create this art and immediately list it on OpenSea. And why that's cool is because it gives everyone in the world access, no matter who you are, not only to a place to go and buy artwork that you like, especially generative, to sell artwork that you like, to monetize your thoughts and your ideas and your artistic creativity.
Is Nifty Gateway and Foundation like the primary issue? That's the first issue, the original issue, and then OpenSea is the secondary market?
I would look at them more like exchanges, in that you have the Nifty Gateways, Foundations, Rareable. These are places where they sell these digital art pieces. Sometimes generative, but mostly not. Mostly just these. Think of them as lithographs.
What do you mean by the word generative? What does that mean?
So the generative projects are something like this. So let me show you, and this is one that I've been following because I really love this kind of Central South American artwork. I spent a lot of time in South America, Central America, lived in Spain, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this particular project is interesting to me for a variety of reasons. One, really cool artwork. I like the artwork. And it is what it is. NFT Samote Club is an NFT club that introduces Latin American artistic style, diverse artists. The collection comes from the creator himself, and this is his world. They've created this whole world. And not only that, but there's all of this, there's this kind of incentivization model. But these are some of the pieces. They're really cool. I like them. There's 4 basic pieces. And what they do is they randomly generate these pieces as they're minted. And in this case, there's going to be 8,888. They're still in the minting process. It's only launched a few days ago. And each one of these pieces is completely unique, but they use 4 basic archetypes. So imagine you might have 4 basic characters. And then in the background, you have, 10 different backgrounds that could be served against them. A bunch of different skin color combinations, eyeglass, clothing, tattoos, all of these things. But these are all just these little nuanced changes, and they create rarity on each of these pieces. Some of these backgrounds, so for instance, you may have a background like this little black one here, where there's only, 100 of those to go out among all 8,888 pieces. So that's going to be kind of rare. And you can check on the rarity numbers and things like that, which I'll show you in a second. But what's cool is they've created this whole system, this whole kind of world, which they call the lore, around these characters. Now, not all of the generative projects do this. Sometimes it's just a crocodile, and then there's 10,000 crocodiles with different color backgrounds and some sunglasses and stuff like that. And that's fine if you love crocodiles. I'm not a crocodile hater, but I do like these newer projects which try to create all sorts of interesting reasons to collect the things. The other thing that's neat is about this particular project is they've created a schedule where every 1,000 pieces that are minted, meaning you go and click, you connect your MetaMask wallet, you pay some Ethereum, and boom, you get to mint a certain amount of pieces. Well, every 1,000, the price of these assets, the price to mint doubles. So the first 1,000, which I was not quick enough to get in on, were 0.5 ETH. Okay. Then we went to 0.1 from 1,001 to 2,000. We went from 2,000 to 3,000, which was 0.2. And you notice it's doubling each time. And what that does is it creates this kind of collector holding mentality where you realize, wait a minute, I don't just want to flip my piece of artwork. It encourages a collector's mentality. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of fun because you don't feel like flipping or selling it if you think, well, in 2 days, the price is going to double. And so it just creates a very interesting scenario. Even right now, as I was looking, they're at like 3,025 have been minted. Therefore, the price is now 0.4 Ethereum each. Well, if another 975 of these go, then we're going to be at 0.8. We're almost 1 Ethereum each. This thing's not even 4 days old. This started on Sunday. So you have
really
artwork and you're incentivizing the kind of behavior you want. So I was kind of early. I listed 2 of mine for the very fair price of $372,000. I think that's fair. Emil, are you in?
Not yet. I need to learn more about it.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So I'll soft circle you for this sale.
I don't know what soft circle means, but it sounds hot, and I'm into that. I need to learn more by dipping my own foot in and doing research, and then I feel like I'll understand it better.
So I like another thing, by the way. So this particular project, another thing that I like about it, having these tokens, in addition to having the artwork, in addition to kind of being a part of this little economy, which is cool, it gets you access to these parties all over the world. I'm a big fan of parties, always have been. I love me some shrimp cocktail. So
that sounds like a 1980s party with not the current parties. I would think
is the new shrimp cocktail just cocaine?
Well, no, that was the 1980s. I thought it's all about synthetic drugs these days.
Ooh, what's the best?
I don't know.
I don't even know if we can talk about that. Anyway.
Okay.
So this is Samote Club. It's just an interesting project. I don't tell anybody to run in and do any of this stuff. You have to be comfortable with this space. But in that, Emil and I have been talking, and in the artwork that you guys do on Making Sense. So do you want to explain a little bit about first of all, how did you guys link up and where did the art come from?
We linked up because I wrote an article in early 2020 saying that we are living in a silent depression, the third worldwide depression in the last 150 years. We had the long depression we had of the 19th century, the Great Depression of the 20th century, and now in the 21st century, we have the silent depression. Why is it silent? Because along the lines like if a tree falls in the woods and doesn't make us, but no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. Same thing present day. If the financial media doesn't report that we're in a depression, are we in a depression? Well, so I called it the silent depression. I published that in the CFA blog post, and they gave me a piece of artwork, and it showed a very, very depressing scene, very depressing, as in like suicide prevention hotline depression. But that's not what I was going for. And I said, you know what I need is I need an artist to bring these things to life. So I was on Twitter and I started reaching out to people and they said, get lost, get lost. Finally, somebody said, why don't you reach out to this person? I can't do it myself. And I reached out to David Parkins, and little did I know of, kind of work he does. And for some reason, he didn't tell me to get lost. And he's been illustrating for our show ever since. Basically, each show I do a show with Jeff Snyder every week, and some topic, some idea comes to mind. For example, we were talking about the Federal Reserve tapering its purchases. So in my mind, I was thinking of ticker tape and how the Federal Reserve is celebrating this taper of its purchases because now the economy's on its feet and it's raring to go. Except Jeff and I don't feel that's the case. So I said to David, why don't we draw Chairman Powell in a limousine surrounded by motorcycles? Each of them represents the media, the elite, some other economists, academics. And then we have a single piece of toilet paper bouncing off his head. And that's the ticker tape. And you just repeat that basically for the last 50, 70 shows that we've done. And you've got like some 70 pieces of artwork. And the last one that we did might be my favorite one. And it shows William Jennings Bryan delivering his Cross of Gold speech in the 1896 Democratic Convention, which is supposedly one of the great speeches in American history. And that's for the Long Depression. And then we have that famous picture of the mother and her children during the Great Depression. And then for the Silent Depression, we have Chairman Powell, Treasury Secretary Yellen, and former governor, president of the Federal Reserve, Bernanke, doing the three monkeys: hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And I love it. I love it. And so that's basically what we do. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's poignant, but I think it's all really world class.
So if I am to understand correctly, and I do, because we've been discussing this, but we are going to create these as non-fungible tokens that the community can kind of participate in.
I think so. I think so, especially if we're putting out one a week. That's not too bad. And that way the community can participate in it. Yeah, definitely.
I think it's fun.
Give some more recognition to David. And I think that's all positive for everyone that would be involved. We'll see what people think of them, because they're not quite like your art that you're showing a moment ago, or the arts behind you. It's not modern. It's political editorial cartooning, lampooning. Is there a market for this? I don't know.
Well, there's market. I mean, you got one customer.
My mother?
You've got then there's two of us.
Okay.
Plus my poor installment grandmother. She's probably on board.
Yes, of course she is. I've heard all about her. You tell us every show about her.
So that's coming, and we will discuss that in more detail very soon. But you can expect some Making Sense with David Parkins, NFTs, limited print runs like lithographs, limited print run, and all the details haven't obviously been ironed out, but do expect that in the near future. And I will let you guys know when that's getting closer to approach. Let's open it up now. If anybody has questions, which I know everybody does, if you have questions for Emil, simply write the word question, and then, and we'll let Emil answer it instead of having anyone, because he's not a puppet. But Emil,
yes, go ahead.
When you look at the space right now, when you look at the world right now, what is your gut feeling? Is your gut feeling that things are getting better, getting worse, flat? I mean, what kind of keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night is that things will remain stagnant. We will remain in the doldrums, listless in this great ship on the flat ocean with no wind, with the sun beating down on us, and that we'll be stuck in this slow growth, no growth era for longer than we care to imagine. That's my big fear. And the depression's been in place for 14 years. And I thought perhaps with the Corona crisis that this would galvanize either the public or the politicians to do something, but I'm not sure it has. Then again, the good news was in 2019, we were seeing all protests all around the world. People were upset. They were protesting all around the world, all different countries. So something was happening. And in early 2020, we saw the politicians spending like crazy. But then since then, they've stopped. It seems like they believe that that was a one-off emergency and they don't need to try anything new. So that's, I guess, my biggest fear is that we're not going to try anything new. We're just going to continue the same old QE, the occasional fiscal stimulus. Right now in the United States, they're arguing about the infrastructure bill as opposed to putting out an infrastructure bill and a stimulus package every month. I'm not saying I'm economically in agreement with that, but at least it would be something new as opposed to what we've been doing. As for the economy and where are we socially and socioeconomically and geopolitically, I would say that we're in a moment where we're transitioning from one era, the post-World War II era, to a new era where there will be a new social contract. And the transition will be volatile, violent, and rapid. And right now, things are a little bit better than they were in the summer. In the summer, things were very, very bad. The Delta case counts were rising. Now they've peaked, come down, and so the economy is starting to open up and do a little bit better. Now the question is this going to continue? Is this going to take off? Are we going to achieve a full recovery and a boom? And because this has been a 14-year depression where we've repeatedly been halted right when we're about to take off again, always something comes up. I'm very confident that once again, we're going to run into something, some ditch, some mogul while we're skiing, whatever it is that will throw off the economy off balance, and then we'll go back into another downturn. And we'll hopefully have a socioeconomic political reaction that puts people into power that want to change the status quo, which will be dangerous, but I feel that's what we need to do.
So Emil, Gordon Bennett asks, do you see any regional differences to call out? Is any world region making headway right now?
All regions are in terrible, terrible trouble. And they're just at different levels. I think the regions that are doing, that have the best cards are countries that have a lot of demand, internal demand, consumption demand. That means they can support their economy internally. They're not counting on the rest of the world to help them. For example, Germany, 45% of their GDP is devoted to exports. They need the rest of the world to do well. So that's not so good. Countries that have huge current account deficits, such as Britain and the United States, means they have a lot of demand that if the people in charge said, we're going to focus internally at the exclusion of the financial system and our trading partners, those economies hold the best cards. That doesn't mean they're going to play the best cards. Another area that we can look to is emerging markets. Surprisingly, don't have a lot of private debt or a lot of public debt, whereas the advanced economies have a tremendous amount of private debt and a tremendous amount of public debt. So that's destabilizing, that's concerning. That suggests the advanced economies are going to implement policies of financial repression to inflate away that debt and savings, and because that'll be the most humane way of getting rid of that debt, because the other ways are terrible. So emerging markets might be somewhere we should investigate because they're not going to be likely implementing financial repression other than China, which already is, and countries such as the United States and the United Kingdom, which have a lot of internal demand.
Spirella asks, Emil, what was the prediction prognosticating tool that Emil mentioned earlier? So that was Hedgeye, was it not?
That's right. There are three groups, boutique investment funds, and investment consultancies that use a volatility, momentum, price signal that I'm aware of, mathematics. And they don't get emotionally involved. They've got ranges of probable outcomes, and those ranges have proven to be very accurate over a long time. The most well-known, the most public is Hedgeye. Hedgeye. You can find them on the internet very easy. The other one is somebody that left Hedgeye recently, Darius Dale, and he went to go start 42 Macro. He employs a similar process. And then the least well-known is Prerequisite Capital down in Australia, run by Daniel Want and his team. But basically, each of these people are employing models, tools, mathematics that kind of helps remove the emotion, the narrative from the story. And they're watching capital flows, momentum. And then if it just triggers a signal where like, well, the momentum's gone, then they sell. And as I said, I've been watching Hedgeye for years, and they've been accurately predicting inflections for years. I'm not sponsored by them, which is terrible. I should be.
Should have like a little lapel tattoo or something, or at least a tattoo on your neck.
No regrets, with regrets spelled the wrong way.
Right. And then backwards, of course, on your knuckles, born to die or something like that.
As long as it's misspelled.
Okay. Adam asks, after if the NFT craze subsides, this is probably a general question, but what do you think will be the next market in crypto that brings this kind of excitement? That's tricky.
I'm not an entrepreneur at heart. If I knew, then I would be there looking. This is your question. This is for you. You're on the cutting edge, Nick.
So I don't actually have an answer for that, because I don't think the NFT craze dies. And I don't think it subsides. I think it actually gets bigger and different. I think if you could imagine the non-fungible token space like this, collecting artwork and cool knickknacks is the beginning of what will become a big, giant economy of things that look a lot like art, but seem more simple, like receipts, coupons, last will and testament, if we're going to get morose. Any kind of legal agreement, legal contract, binding or otherwise. If you want to have copy of a paper piece of anything, why not have a non-fungible token represent that? When the Ethereum fee situation is resolved, which will be with a welcoming of other assets, platforms, things like this, this will all get resolved. And then it will be almost free to produce these digital representations. And therefore, coupons and Groupons and tickets to events and movie tickets and anything you want to be in perpetuity and have a record of, school records, digital identity, passports, tickets. You can imagine your NFT red light ticket coming. They have cameras all over Beverly Hills, and if you burn a red light, they just mail you a $480 ticket. I get like 6 of these a week. Not with my behavior, mind you. We rent cars out, right? And once you rent a car, you ain't stopping for no red light cam. So anyway, I deal with this all the time. Well, it'd be a lot easier if I just got a non-fungible ticket that showed up with a button to click to pay, right? And so I think the world of paper stuffs will transition into the world of non-fungible tokens. And then you go, oh, this is much, much bigger than the collectible art space and some trading cards. And even though they're cool, some generative artwork projects, things like this, I just think the NFT story is much, much bigger. And I think it probably represents in the future 90% of the entire crypto space.
It's like asking at some point during the internet's revolution, what's the next big thing? And who could have imagined? Who could have imagined what it would become? So I am no expert. I can't imagine where it's going to go. I'm looking to your show, Nick, for answers.
So what, other than the bad stuff, what are you looking forward to, Emil? And let's round it out with that. What are you looking forward to in the world, in your life? What's up?
Earlier, one of your commenters said that, let's see, that I should NFT my voice. There it is. Patrick Pellegrino. Thank you very much, Patrick. Patrick, that's very kind of you. And it made me think of Dune. And you remember Muad'Dib, because they would have the weapons that were based on sound. And one of the soldiers said Muad'Dib's name, and that turned out to be a weapon. I bring all this up because I bought a ticket, not an NFT one, but I still bought a ticket to go see Dune on Thursday. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Very excited. In the personal life, I got an unbelievable edition of Dune from the Folio Society. Fantastic. Should I show it to people or no? That's just too much.
You gotta show us. Yes, of course.
All right, 1 second.
For those of you that are nerds, we are nerds, and this is what nerds do.
So these are the things that that bring me happiness.
Ooh.
So unbelievable. And then inside, I get all sorts of books from the Folio Society because they've got great stuff. And what they do, this is another thing, is they hire an artist to illustrate part of the story. So they hire a real life artist, and it's unbelievable pieces of art that you can find in each particular book. And so that's that. Have you seen Dune yet, or is it?
I have.
Don't tell me it's no good.
I see everything. and I really enjoyed it. It's cool. It's cool. Is it? I mean, for those of you that are Dune fans, this isn't a spoiler. This is just, you can look forward to this. What I saw in that film represented half of book 1.
Huh.
So there's probably 14 movies to come.
I believe it. You know, I only read the first one.
Yeah, I think you're going to really enjoy it.
What else am I on a big macro scale? You know, we have been through this before, these difficulties, and time again, we solve them and we improve on them, and we create a new social contract. And after that, it's free running. A golden age lies ahead of us, but we're just stuck in a depression. But after the long depression, after the Great Depression, great booms, a great future lay ahead of us, for a generation or so. So I'm looking forward to that in the macro sense. And our NFT project, I think that would be fantastic.
I'm super excited about all this. And my final thoughts are, well, one, I'm looking forward to having you back again.
I'll show you this book over here, which is, if people can read it, it's the Kama Sutra, also illustrated. That's for the next episode.
He's got another copy of that in his bedroom for information purposes, obviously, for research.
I have to write everything down on my hand.
He's got Kama Sutra tattooed on his forearm.
Hold on, don't move 1 second. Terrible show. Forgive me, audience.
Don't worry. I fail much worse on a more regular basis. What I would say to everyone is, when we talk about these markets and when you look at just markets in general and macroeconomics, understanding how the gears turn lets you make better, more fundamental value estimations. No one can tell you what the price is or isn't going to do from day to day. We can make these inferences, whether it's through cool technology, algorithms, and a lot of math, like the people over at Hedgeye that seem to be doing really well, or like these kind of old school value investors that kind of just go walk through the fields and they get a sense of what something is worth, and they make these value estimations, like your Warren Buffetts and your Charlie Mungers, and go to your newer tier, which is like your Jeffrey Gunlocks and these guys that are perpetually successful in a variety of ways. You have to come up with your own strategy. And I think that strategy involves understanding the basic gears that turn the economy. And a really good way to get a hold of those gears is to understand at least the idea of money, the idea of currency, and the Eurodollar system, because that is kind of a proxy or a way to look at what may be the reason why crypto even exists, is another outburst of a Eurodollar type situation. So this is stuff that's all going to help you make better fundamental recurring decisions. And it starts, I think, with making sense, Eurodollar University with Emil Kalinowski and Jeffrey Snyder, and then keep digging. And don't take anyone's advice. Advice is really worthless. You really just need to absorb and come up with your own system for making decisions. Because if you don't have that, what happens when your sources of information go away? You will be, as Emil said so eloquently, listless and at sea without a sail. So do your research and try to separate the emotion. And I think you're going to do quite well in this space. We will be back soon. We'll see you. For those of you that watch Money Map Press, we'll be on tomorrow for office hours. We'll be back Thursday for the regular show. By the way, for those of you that haven't checked out trading.tv, go take a look at it. The platform is rolling out. It's super badass. They're mixing a crypto exchange into real and live content. So live financial content with exchange functionality built right into it, which is super cool. Maybe quasi dangerous for some of you degenerates, but for everyone else, I think it's a cool idea. And then for those of you that were curious about that project, samote.club, SAMOT.club, really cool artwork. I like it. And there we go. We will see you soon. Stay out of trouble. Stay in school. Don't do anything my poor insolvent drunk strung out on meth grandmother wouldn't do. And as you know, that is so very little.
Thank you, Nick.